Hi everyone, welcome to Lights, Camera, Action. I'm Allison Howard and your host for tonight. Tonight we're talking to three great actors who work and live in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. And here they are. First you guys are so distracting.
I was looking back.
I thought somebody was coming in.
First off, we have Kain, Steve Ray, and Corey Cunningham. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, even though y'all are very distracting.
Thanks for having us.
So, let's start at the beginning. How did each of you get into acting? Rick, you want to start? Yeah.
I went back to school to finish my degree, and it required an arts credit. And I took an acting class and went to work the next day and quit my job. No, I'm kidding. But that's pretty much how it happened.
Makes a better story.
Wow.
Yeah.
What had you been doing before?
I was an executive with a manufacturing company. So I walked away from 6 figures in vacation and insurance and everything else to become a starving actor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big life change.
Late in life, 40. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great, though, following your dream and doing everything that you want to do now, and you're happy doing this?
I love it, yeah, absolutely.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Great.
You know, Rick, that would make a great feature film. Maybe call it like Next Nick.
Yeah.
About a guy who has a completely different second career after being in the corporate world for years.
We should write that.
You know, that would be great. If we could only find a guy named Mike Kravinsky to do that, and maybe he could, you know,
You
cast
can play my
Allison
daughter.
in
We
it.
kind of look like
Yeah.
we could be related.
Yeah, you
That
can
would
play my
work.
daughter, yeah.
That could work.
Yeah.
We could make it happen.
Never heard of such a thing. That's ridiculous.
Steve, how about you?
I came into the acting business sideways. I was
like the movie?
Yeah, exactly. I was a radio disc jockey for many years and moved to Los Angeles from D.C. in 1980, and just on a whim went out for an extra role in '81 in a remake of the classic Dial M for Murder, made for TV, and it happened to be with Angie Dickinson and Christopher Plummer and Michael Parks and so forth. And from working as an extra in L.A., I actually ended up getting more and more involved in not only acting, but in the production end of things, and ended up being a first AD, working behind the scenes primarily with first-time directors and writers directing their own scripts.
Wow.
Yeah. So 20 years there and then back here.
Wow. Did your experience by being a DJ, did that help you at all getting into, like, for instance, like voiceover work specifically?
Oh, absolutely.
But then also you have such a great, like, Morgan Freeman voice that I'm sure that, like, have you ever played, like, God or something?
Actually, I've done 2 voice of God parts.
Really?
But not playing God.
Okay.
That role's actually taken, from what I understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
Morgan Freeman got that one.
Morgan Freeman, I was gonna say.
Exactly. But the late Don LaFontaine, who is the guy that many people know as In a World, you know, Mr. Movie Trailer. Don was a great friend of mine. Ernie Anderson, who was the voiceover guy for ABC, who is most noted for saying The Love Boat. I mean, that rolling kind of delivery. All those VO guys were friends of mine in L.A., so I ended up doing a lot of that, did movie trailers for William Friedkin, who did The Exorcist, but I started with him on The Guardian and some things like that, doing his electronic press kits. And I think probably for people in Arlington and whoever else sees this, the greatest claim to fame voiceover-wise is being the TV and radio promo voice of the Washington Nationals for the first 6 seasons.
Wow.
You know, because I produced the radio network. The guy they had doing them, it was a little bit up in this kind of register and wasn't really baseball-ish, you know what I mean? He wasn't sporty enough. And so the play-by-play guys put the bug in the ear of the team. They said, you've got Steve right here every day running the network. Let him do the opening billboards. Let him do the TV and radio ticket spots. And that was a big kickstart for me coming back to rebuild my career in D.C.
That's great. That's really, really cool.
So there you go.
Wow. What a journey. How things unravel the way that they do.
They do. And each of these guys know, and by the way, I love working with Rick. We've been in 2 features together, and it does become a smaller world, particularly in this area where we may have just been introduced to this fine young gent, but just in talking before we started the show, there's a sense of camaraderie and so forth that we find in D.C. and Baltimore right off the bat with people that we run into, where you kind of want to put something together to work with them once you get a chance to
Well,
talk
these guys
to
were
them.
giving me advice as soon as I sat down. They asked me a few questions, like, "Oh, you could do this." I'm like, "Ah, thank you. That's the kind of information I need." That's why things like this are pretty great.
Exactly, because you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know where it's going to lead. That's so awesome. So, Corey, how did you end up getting into acting?
I started yay high. I grew up in Greenville, Mississippi. And most people have never been there, and there's a reason. There's nothing to do there, so we had to create our own entertainment. So I got started really young, 3rd grade. I was, you know, the daddy rabbit in our school play. 5th grade, I was the head elf in the operetta that we did. And then I got into community theater, so I started doing community theater in school, and started making little homemade movies with my friends. So it was just what we did. We had a little theater group, my circle of friends. That's what we did. And then I got to college, and I was like, well, surely there's something else that I can do that's going to make me money besides this acting stuff that I like to do. And there was nothing else that I could see myself doing. So I got my degree in acting there, and I've been doing it pretty steadily since.
That's amazing. Do you mostly do film, or do you do theater? Do you do both?
So I've mostly done theater. I've started doing more film, but that's what I grew up doing. That's what I got my degree doing. So I've done a lot of stage here in DC and throughout. But since I've been in DC, I have started doing more film, which is really, it's interesting to me coming from a place where we're doing like a 2-month gig, and you've got rehearsals every day, and it's a very long process. And then you've got film where you sort of come in and it's like, I don't know where my scene even falls in this. I'm here for, I mean, you and I did a scene together. We were there for maybe an hour. Like we were in and out.
Have you seen it yet?
Very quick. It aired on Friday.
Oops.
I know.
What was that show?
I don't know. Which
Southern Fried Homicide.
Oh,
one of the great investigation discovery shows that keeps us all plugging away.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, do you have a preference on which you prefer, film or theater?
So my thing is, I feel like theater is really the actor's medium. Yes. So in terms of artistically feeling sort of fulfilled, I feel like I have a lot of leeway in theater to do that, to sort of, I feel like it's my own. That being said, film is really fun because it's newer for me, and it's like almost a little vacation. They've got little snacks set up, and I come in, I'm like, oh, I just stand here, oh, make sure my hair is good, like, but it's odd in that I have no idea what the final product is going to look like. I feel like my sense of ownership is not as much, so I love both for different reasons at the moment.
I mean, my whole original exposure, my mother was a stage actress in the Washington, D.C. area, and she traveled around a bit. So my entire youth was exposure to musical theater. So I almost thought, God, acting, what a weird, weird group of people. Man.
I'm jealous. I'm actually going to lie on my resume and put head elf in an operetta right at the top. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, it's funny you mentioned like musical theater, because I do children's theater and musical theater, and it's one of those things where it's like by the time you're done, if you're not just sweating from head to toe, you're probably doing it wrong.
Oh yeah.
It's a work. I just got done doing a children's show, and it's a workout. And then it's fun to like go in and do a film, and you're like, oh, and you're here for 15 minutes, and then you're done.
And you get paid a stupid amount of money.
Well, a lot more, for the whole thing.
And you're not waiting tables.
Exactly.
As we're taping this show, we're only a couple of days removed from Elaine Stritch passing away, a great stage actress. And as it turns out, my mom was in the Children's Theater of Baltimore, way, way back, with Elaine Stritch as a visiting teacher. And I didn't realize until I kind of looked back on things that I had that in my family as well, not to the degree that Rick does, obviously, but one of the casting directors in the Baltimore area, who we all know and love, Pat Moran, actually put Mom in Barry Levinson's Liberty Heights film in the courtroom scene with Adrian Brody because, well, A, she knew about Baltimore in the 50s and had known Barry Levinson as they were growing up together. And she's the woman that screams that Brody's character is a commie and a pinko and a red, baiter and all that kind of stuff. And Brody actually said to her, "You literally scared the crap out of me."
Oh my God.
For real. So I think we all have that kind of lineage which helps us love what we do a little bit more, right?
With me, what happened was I think I was always an actor and fell into my other work and then rediscovered it later on and didn't realize it. So it was kind of, you always ask, I think you're either an actor or you're not. I don't, I think it finds you and you're it.
No, it's completely true. I mean, you and I have had this. I feel like if I could be happy doing anything else, I would go do that because I could make more money, I could have more security.
Right.
Yes.
But it's like I literally, if I'm not on stage, if I'm not doing something, I begin to feel a little depressed.
Yep.
It's some sort of odd addiction. It's something in our chemistry for sure.
It's the drug of choice, right?
It is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it really does. It feeds you, and as much as we humble brag on social media, and really all social media is humble bragging, but as much as we post our production shots and our, little notices about things we're going to be doing, it's really a great feeling to rejuvenate yourself when you're back on a set or on a stage. It really does, especially, I mean, I'm not that much older than these guys, but working around younger people who are enthusiastic about the business really helps me to rejuvenate about doing something new each time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I know all of us have really mostly focused our time, well, except for Steve. He's had a lot of time behind the camera. Are there any jobs that you would like to try and delve into that are behind the camera, whether it's pre-production, during production behind the camera, or post-production? Or is there anything that any of you want?
Well, really, the first thing I ever did as an actor where I got paid, I did a movie called For Richer or Poorer as an extra.
Okay.
And the first day was kind of cool, but after that I thought this waiting around stuff sucks. So literally I went into it sideways because I needed to earn income, so I did a lot of stand-in work, which I got to say was invaluable because I got to do some acting with other actors, great actors, and work with great directors and DPs, and I really learned lighting. And since then, I'm shooting a short right now. The screenplay won second in the Baltimore Screenwriting competition, so we're shooting that. We've got a feature we've got 3 features that Susan's written that we're working on. So I've done probably more. I was thinking about this the other day. I was looking at, like, I keep a line item of every day I've ever been on set. I've done more off camera than on camera.
Interesting.
In 17 years I've done significantly more behind the scenes, and yet I would call myself an actor first and foremost.
And don't sell yourself short on the quality of your stunt work either.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
seriously.
Yes.
Well, the last 2
is-
years has been primarily stunt coordinating, actually, as far as how I've been earning my income, which is like it is. You go back and forth and you talk about you have bills and you have family and you got these things you have to do. And I've always made these choices to try, like, I'm not going to go wait tables or do this or that. I've always made these choices. How can I make money and continue to learn about this process of what we do? But it's funny, I always go, man, if I won the lottery, if I won Mega Millions, man, I would never, it's like, no, I'd still act.
You'd
I
plow
would
it
still
right
act.
into your own
I would plow
productions.
it into
Yeah.
everything I'm
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
I'd go broke.
It'd free you up to do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It'd free you up to do it.
So it always tells me I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And you were an AD, you had said. So,
Yeah, I was a first AD, and my fallback position has always been radio, simply because it came so naturally, and I did it for 20, 25 years. And it's funny because in that skill set, I'm considered a pretty good audio editor and an A1 for television. I do that for newscasts and have done it for Al Jazeera English and for NBC and so forth. But taking that skill set, I think I would want to, and I've thought about this, the last piece of the pie for me would be to learn to become a good film editor. I have not put my fingers in the editing pie, so to speak, and I'm kind of jealous of those who can. I mean, we all know great people who have excellent eye behind the camera, who have an excellent ear for dialogue and so forth, and if I could step up and really get some editing skills on my resume, I think I would be very happy because I would consider myself well-rounded at that point.
I think that's why Mike Krasinski's such a good director.
I think so,
Because he
too.
spends so much time editing, he knows exactly what he wants. You do it, he doesn't beat it to death. yep, we got it, and he moves on.
Well, it's funny how much you learn from one thing doing another.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I started this theater company last year, and so I've gotten more into producing. And then last year, I co-directed a show, and we did casting, and just being involved in the casting process and being on the other side of that fence, and then directing. Like, you just learn a lot of, like, oh, okay, this is why this is done. This makes this so much easier. You know, it's a learning process. So even if you primarily want to be an actor or primarily want to do this or that, it is helpful to be involved in every aspect of it because you learn so much.
And it gives you such an appreciation for all the work that goes into it. What was the hardest thing that you've come across having your own theater company? What's the most challenging? Is it like the casting? Is it the stage managing? Is it the rehearsals?
It's funny because I feel like depending on who you are, it's going to be different for you. So there's three of us who've started this theater company, and Rachel Murray, who I started with, she's very good at sort of the business side and managing things, and we need to make sure we have, you know, the producing side of it. And I'm very like artistic. You know, I'm like, I want to sit down, let me do casting, and so for me, it's really the things that are hard for me, you know, finding a rehearsal space for, because we're trying to set up public libraries and asking other theaters if we can sort of come in for a little bit. We've got to be out by this point. Finding actors even is hard. Finding the right casting. I mean, we do Fringe Festival, Capitol Fringe Festival is our second year doing that, and there's almost this competition to get auditions done early to find all the right people, and it's this weird puzzle that's very difficult. I mean, for me, the fun is once you get into rehearsal and all of that's out of the way and just delving into the material. But that, for me, is very difficult, all the logistics.
You know,
involved.
It's funny that he brings that up, and I know it's the case for Rick as well. I think there's a realization after a while that there is a business of the business that actors absolutely have to learn. It's not just marketing yourself. It is things like tax deductions as a performer that you're allowed, things of that nature. And also in learning the rest of the process. The idea that I was an AD has helped tremendously because on set, I'm very much aware of frame lines, lenses, the process, to the point where now I can make it second nature. And it doesn't, it's still intrinsic to what I do on set, but now that it's second nature, it's much easier to handle. So I out of the corner of my eye, realize, okay, red lights on, camera 2 in the center. I'm going to play to that, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
Hey.
So
you guys, the cameras aren't there.
Oh, did we break the wall?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Are you using flashcards, Allison?
No, you know, it's
just animation.
It's very interesting though what you were just talking about though, because the technical aspects, just like running a camera, if you know they're shooting on an f-stop of 2.8, then you know that the depth of field, you better not be doing a lot of this, right? If you're close, and
learning
you know,
prime lenses, zoom lenses, the difference in the focal points, as Rick says,
If you're nice and wide, you can afford to have some movement and be bigger, but if they're tight, any kind of movement is just going to be awful, and you don't. So you really have to know those things and be aware of those. So
it's weird. It's a weird circle. Coming from a theater background, it's very strange because you start off with sort of that raw passion and just having fun with it, and then you get all this training, and then all you go. I went through this sort of stage where I was always in my head about making sure everything was technically correct, and then there's this. Then you're going back to like, okay, now I need to forget all of this technical stuff and get back to just the raw experimentation and just trust that the technical aspects are going to be there.
And I'm sure for you, you've got to bring it down from trying to reach the 40th row to right in frame, and even, as Rick said, if you're on a particular prime lens or something where perhaps you delivered a line in a master shot using your hands to talk, that you have to be aware of, okay, in your medium or close-up, you're either going to have fingertips cut off as you come up here, and it's not going to make sense while you're doing this, you know, only the part that the camera sees, or be aware of what your DP is using and bring that performance down to within the frame.
It's really interesting for like auditions for me too. Right? Going in a film audition versus a theater audition versus a musical theater audition. It's weird to have so many different styles and techniques to try to pick and choose from and see kind of what, because that's another thing I learned doing casting is you just got to go in and try to give them something, but you're never going to know. I mean, even with our show, I had certain ideas of the characters, and the director, the person actually directing our show this year, had different ideas about the character. So our casting decisions may have ended up being different had it been left to me instead of her. So it's interesting that's not really, it's hard to, coming in and just doing an audition, it's hard to make those calls, and you just have to kind of present yourself, and I set it and forget it. You go audition.
You keep bringing up casting, and I'm going to tell you, when we wrote a feature screenplay, and we decided, hey, we want to hear it. So we cast all the actors, and boy, do that one time to really appreciate what casting director is going through.
Yeah.
So that when you're going to an audition, that you just focus on the work and being the best you can be, and not trying to figure out, well, what do they want?
Right.
They know what they want. Just go in and be you. If you're not right for it, you're not going to get the job.
Right.
Yeah,
If you're right for it, you're going to get the job, and just let it go.
Rick, did you do a table read once you got
we
everybody
did.
together so
We
that
did
you
table
heard
read.
the whole thing top to bottom?
And when we got it right, we knew we got it right,
Yeah.
because you could hear it. You could close your eyes, and just we chose particular actors for particular reasons, and they did not disappoint. And if we had to cast the film, I would cast those actors in the film. Just they were right. The ones where he didn't get it right, you could hear it. It was like a good golf shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you play, you know,
You hear that ping, that little.
you hear that ping.
Yeah.
You don't even have to look. The ball's going where you wanted it to go.
Yeah.
And it's like casting is such a, try it one time, and then as an actor, then when you go back into the room, it'll just make all the difference in the world of how you are in the room.
So, talking about casting and auditioning and everything, what's the hardest part of auditioning for each of you? Or do you have any words of wisdom that you can give to the audience who's watching?
Oh yeah, I have 2
You've
words.
got buckets.
I have 2 words for every casting session you're scheduled to do. Leave early. That's it. Don't be late. Leave early. Don't be late to that, even if you have a crunched schedule. The trip from D.C. to Baltimore is tough enough as it is, and a majority of the casting directors we see happen to be in Baltimore. There are a couple here in Falls Church and Fairfax and D.C. proper, but give yourself time not just to not be late, but to be able to relax once you're there, to get into it. I mean, nothing is worse than coming in sweaty, dripping, frazzled, and pissed at the world because some guy cut you off on the BW Parkway or whatever as you're headed up to Baltimore. It detracts from your ability to deliver to the casting director what you are there to deliver. Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, I hate auditioning. I hate it's the worst. It's the job.
Oh, and can you cut right there? Don't, you got to erase that.
Yeah,
I mean it.
I do, but I say that knowing that about myself is because the advice I would give is just do it. Once you get into the rhythm of it, and you know your material, the stuff that you've got, the monologues in your back pocket, and I'm comfortable with Cole. I'm comfortable with everything now. But once you get into the rhythm of it, then you can just go and go and go. And like I said, I sort of set it and forget it. So I'll set the appointment, I'll go, I'll do the audition, I'll move on to the next thing. And that's a nice surprise if I get a call. The problem is if you limit yourself and you talk yourself out of auditions, or then you've got maybe one audition for the entire month or whatever, and then you're thinking about it, and you've got all this pressure on yourself. So I don't know. I feel like it's against sort of that business side of things that it goes into both business and art. I know people who are very, very good at auditioning. Once they get on stage, it's a different story.
Interesting.
Right? Like there are people who I mean, they're professional auditioners, and they're gonna in a way they're gonna get more first-time work than people who are just naturally once you get them in there, they're good.
Yeah.
That also makes casting hard and everything else because you have to try to break. For me, I try to break past that with the people who are very good auditioners. I want to see something different. So that's another advice I would give is when you go in, you do your initial audition, it goes well, you get a call back. Try to just listen. Try to listen in the callback and see what they want and just go with it. Just do it. Even if it doesn't sound right to you, even if it sounds crazy. I'm sure we've all been asked to do pretty weird things in callbacks, but you just got to trust that they're looking for something, and you just got because that's the most frustrating thing doing casting is when you have someone who has a great audition, they come back in for the callback, can you try this like this, and then you just get the same thing over and over again, and you're like, if you could just I just need to see a little bit more.
And I would say the biggest thing is to be like, they call it The Room. And like the other day I went up and I read, and it was the 2 casting directors, and it was literally the guys that were reading ahead of me. The door opened, they went in, and literally you turn back, they're coming out. It was that fast. Hit the mark, do your thing. It was just a preliminary get on tape. Or then there's the one you walk in, 2 producers, the director, the casting director, the person you're reading with. Is you know, somehow for me, I could have a huge motion picture set with 85 people, and I'm naked, and I could block all that out.
Yeah.
But for some reason, these people are deciding, you put the stress on you. You said fear, I would say stress.
Okay.
That, oh my God, I'll never work again if I don't get this part. No, let it go, focus on that reader. Do your thing, and just come in, do your thing, thank you, and get out of the room.
Yeah. I'm more surprised at the roles I get than the ones I don't get.
Yeah.
I honestly am. I'm more surprised at the roles I get than the ones I don't get at this point.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Real quick, let's just touch on some things that are going to be coming up with each of you. Any sort of upcoming shoots, upcoming plays, things that are currently going on right now. Just real quick before we wrap up.
I think by the time this is airs, we'll be done with our show, but Naked Theater Company, that's the theater that I started with my friends, we'll be going on our 3rd year, I guess, by the time this airs, but we just got done doing Bitch, a Play About Antigone at the Capitol Fringe Festival, and we're going to be looking to be doing new things, maybe independent of Fringe, but you can go to our website and check it out. Our sort of angle is that we're trying to do show the behind the scenes process of it. So kind of things like this, sort of these natural conversations that happen.
What's the web link? It's
nakedtheatercompany.com.
Great.
Theater with the Theatre, fancy spelling.
Ooh, Canadian.
Yeah.
I have 1 episode left in a series you may have heard about called The ABCs of Online Dating by Allison Howard. You may not
It
have
does
heard
sound
of her.
familiar.
Yeah, playing Dr. Noah McGraw, this guy that runs a dating site who has suckered all these poor folks into going to meetmrandmrsright.com. Then shooting a television pilot with a great director, Noah Stern, who is doing a pilot about public radio, and I happen to be growing this out to play the oldest disc jockey in a college radio station by the name of Stoney, who gives the lead character, Sid, a ration of shit every day, among other things. And then web series, The Doctor Is In. The Kickstarter campaign should be ongoing as this airs.
Wonderful.
So, and Rick and I are going to go on the road as a dance team, I think, later.
Yeah, we're thinking about that.
Yeah.
Let me know when you guys are performing.
Yeah.
That'll be great. How about you? Anything coming up? Or?
Yeah, I just read for this other thing because I can't even say anything about it because there was an NDA I had to sign.
No,
but
fingers crossed
fingers
for you.
crossed. Going down to work on my 3rd episode of Sleepy Hollow the end of this week.
Congratulations.
Well, I get to combine stunts and acting.
That'll be great.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll keep going with that. And I have shooting a short right now for the short that won the 2nd in the Baltimore Screenwriting Competition with Bill Thomas and Dan Franco. We've got a day in the can. We're waiting on a location to finish it up. So excited about that. And then there was this film I worked on with these 2 crazy guys.
Yeah.
Geographically Desirable, another Mike Krasinski film.
Great film.
It got announced that it is going to be at the Fort Lauderdale Film Festival in November. I was kind of hoping more January, but November still will work.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll all go down and see that.
Yeah.
So excited about that.
That's so exciting. There's so much going on with each of you. I wish all of you the best of luck, and I'm sure that I'll be seeing any of you on set, hopefully working together again soon. So this has been Lights, Camera, Action with Allison Howard, and I've been talking to 3 wonderful actors who work here in the DC, Baltimore area. Everybody should hire them. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.